Hello and welcome to our lecture on ethics and social science research. So whether you call it the IRB, the Institutional Review Board, Human Subject Committees, or Research Ethics Committees, or Research Ethics Board, REB, these groups are very important in research. What they do is they review research proposals for potentially harmful impacts. So what they do is these harmful impacts on human subjects, right? So on research participants, whether they're social, whether they're psychological, emotional, physical. And what the IRB does is they advise researchers about these requirements and require any changes to the research before it begins. So these groups pay special attention, especially to human subjects. So if you are looking at prisoners or children, pregnant women, mentally disabled people, and or economically or educationally disadvantaged, who might be unduly coerced or influenced to participate in the research study. So then we have what's known as the Belmont Report, and that summarizes 3 ethical principles that have to underlie all US research with individuals. You have to respect the persons, you have to have beneficence and justice. So these principles are also evident in the United Kingdom and in Canadian policies as well, not only in the US. So these principles are not easy to apply, right? If you're examining an excerpt from a published social research reviewed in this chapter, you'll see some reasons why. So we have the tea room trade. And so this was researcher Laud Humphreys who observed homosexual activity in public restrooms while acting as a lookout for the men. He later traced them to their homes using the license plate information and then interviewed them without acknowledging having observed them. So here he argued that the activity took place in a semi-public setting. And he also said that he took considerable precautions to protect those participants from harm resulting from his research, including making sure that the names of the men would never get out. So pretty much assuring anonymity. I kept only 1 copy of the master list of names, and this was in a safe deposit box. I did all of the transcribing myself and changed all identifying marks and signs. In one instance, I allowed myself to be arrested rather than let the police know what I was doing and the kind of information I had. By passing as a deviant, I had observed sexual behavior without disturbing it. You do walk a real perilous tightrope in regard to ethical matters in studies like this, but unless someone will walk it, the only source of information will be the police department, and that's dangerous for a society. Be interesting to see your thoughts. So the methods I used were the least intrusive possible. Oh, I could have hidden in the ceiling as the police do, but then I would have been an accomplice in what they were doing. Often when they catch somebody, they don't arrest them, but they get his name, address, and employer. There's no defense against this, and there's no way of knowing when the information will be used. Were participants harmed in harm's way or not in this particular study? So what you're going to do is actually add that to the comments to serve as your virtual classroom for this week. So make sure that you are doing that. I would really like to know what you think of this, because this is an actual study that took place and an actual defense that happened. So if you think they were harmed due to who they are, the setting of the research, or both, so I would want you to also answer that in the comments below, and so that would serve as your virtual classroom for this week. Let's look at the Belmont Report now. So the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects in 1974 was charged with codifying protections that must be afforded to human subjects in US research. Then we have the Belmont Report, which identifies the 3 ethical principles: respect, beneficence, and justice. And these principles are also in our UK and Canadian policies. So let's start with respect for persons. So here you have an informed consent and confidentiality application, and you have to give this to your researchers to get their consent to participate and also to ensure that they have confidentiality. So consent requires that each subject or individual be given a fair summary of the research, its potential risks and benefits, and that each subject sign a formal consent document. So few persons dispute this requirement in the abstract, but many disputes arise in the specific application of this informed consent and confidentiality. So confidentiality must be assured in all research that uses any type of human subject. So continuing our Belmont report, we have beneficence, right? And that's compassionate behavior. And this gives us two obligations that researchers have to adhere to when they have human subjects. First and foremost, you do not harm the subjects. And second, you strive for the maximum benefit for that subject. So here we have the assessment of risks and benefits, and that's the application that we're applying. So you have to take careful consideration of whether the potential benefit of the research offsets the risk to the subject. So this consideration may stipulate comparison of other alternative research methods to try to get the same type of knowledge and information. So review boards are expected to discuss explicitly these issues before approving any type of proposed research study. So continuing with our Belmont report, we have our third rung here, which is justice. So the basic idea here is to strive for equitable distribution of benefits and burdens of research. So here you want to consider factors such as your age, experience, deprivation, competence, and merit to enter into these type of equitable judgments. So here we have the selection of subjects. So procedures have to be adapted that do not put some individuals or group at an unfair risk of being subjected to any type of dangerous research procedures. So this implementation has to be free of any type of personal favoritism or any type of generalized prejudice against one class or one group of people. So you can't really have any racial minorities or one gender. You want to make sure that your subjects are representative of the population. So in summary, right, we have that researchers have made important contributions from studies in which they were not known as researchers, yet to not disclose your role as a research violates the normal informed consent. So you do have to tell your subjects that you are the researcher and you have to get their informed consent and ensure their confidentiality as well. So the requirement of informed consent poses some problems for us, particularly when we're doing observational or ethnographic research, right? So the question is of special concern if you have a participant or observers where you need to blend into the group to appear like you are a true member or a bona fide group member, but you are truly the researcher. So that creates a little bit of a problem when we're talking about these types of experiments. And again, maintaining confidentiality is essential in all of your research experiments or endeavors. You want to make sure that especially when you're working with human subjects, that you keep all of their names locked in a safe or, in safekeeping. Anonymity means that the researcher does not know the identity of respondents, and the research therefore cannot link data to a specific individual. Typically, when we are trying to do survey data, we want to keep that anonymous, right? So we don't want to know which particular subject gave us that data. And anonymity is usually limited to situations where the research does not interact with the subject or have access to information that might identify that. So a survey instrument, as long as it has content validity, you can submit that electronically, get the results back, and still keep the participant information not tied to the results. So you can know that they provided results, but not know which of the results they provided. And that would maintain your anonymity in your research. And we've reached the end of our lecture. Thanks for watching.